Welcome back. Let's continue from where we left off. Okay, let's look at our first logic condition. Enabling the lubrication system turns on the pump. All right, so anytime you see one of these square boxes in the front of an input or an output, it indicates a place where we can attach logic. So let's double click this checkbox and open up our logic editor. We're presented with a couple of sentences here that we can begin to fill out to describe our logic. In this case, if we look at the second sentence, to make operate equal to a number, that doesn't really make sense in this situation. So let's look at the first sentence. We want to operate the pump unit only while, yep, that's certainly true. I'm going to click the green box here at the end of the sentence with the ellipsis to indicate there's more to come. And while the lubrication receives enable. This looks like exactly what we want. We want to operate the pump unit only while the lubrication system receives enable. That's true. And as I'm moving around and moving this hand over the different words, you'll see various things light up, like the enable here on the left, or the lubrication system, or the pump unit, the operate word, and that helps you get a visual as to which part you're really talking about to keep things clear. Now these drop-down lists that appear give us our word choices to help build better English sentences. Sometimes you can just leave them out and the sentence is still just as clear. In this case, we can choose to leave it out and just say operate the pump unit, or we could say we'd like to request to operate the pump unit only while some condition occurs, or we want to set a certain condition. These all have the same meaning when they're hooked together by these bars. And then there are other choices here as well. In this case, we're going to leave it out because it's just as clear without it. So we want to operate the pump unit only while, and then the yellow box for editing moves over to the next section to tell us this is the next part of the logic that it wants us to work on. The lubrication system receives enable. So our choices here are our components, the lubrication system, the pump unit, or the oil tank. And our logic condition says that enabling the lubrication system turns on the pump. So we want to operate the pump unit only while the lubrication system receives enable. And what else is next? We have a check mark. That's a good sentence. That's good. Next, we need to pass that information into the pump itself, though. So let's go into the pump unit. And in this case, we need to tell the pump to operate if the pump unit's been allowed to operate. Now, in this case, there are no other conditions for the pump to be able to operate. So there's another shortcut for getting the logic done for that where there's only one condition, and that is to hold your mouse over the end of the input. In this case, you see the four-headed arrow show up, and you click and drag a wire, just like you're going to direct wire a component to the one you want to connect to. And that automatically builds a logic sentence for us that we want to operate the pump only while the pump unit itself receives operate, and that is true. So we're going to hit the check mark there, and we've now built logic for that one. Okay, so when we're done with the logic editor, we can just click the X over here on the side. Let's see what's next. Our next condition is that the pump should be turned off if the oil tank level falls below 20%. So let's go look at our oil tank. So we need to be able to pass this information about the level OK out. But you notice when I hold my mouse over this arrow, the little blue pop-up tells us if there's any logic actually already assigned to it. Now I can't add logic here because there's no square, but I can go into the oil tank, and there we go. Now I can attach logic to the level OK here. So we're going to double check that, and let's make some logic for this. All right. So we want to make the level OK not equal to a number, but we want the oil tank itself to report that the level's OK, but only while a certain condition happens. So we'll click the green box here. Only while the reading of the level transmitter is greater than 20%. Now we get to use this analog-based sentence. And what else? That's the only condition we really need. And now we can see that these two are connected, that the oil tank reports the level is OK, only while the reading of the level transmitter is greater than 20%. Great. Okay, so now we need to update the pump unit itself. So let's go out to the pump unit, and we need to edit its conditions to operate. So let's double check there to get back to the logic editor. And we can click the little pencil icon to edit its logic. Okay, so we still want to operate the pump unit only while the lubrication system receives enable, but we have another condition. And this pop-up box here right before the check mark is always a choice of either adding an and or an or. So in this case, we want to say and that shows us in white that it's already accepted this much logic so far, and it's giving us this choice here in yellow to make additional changes as our focus. So the other thing we want to find out is that we want to find out that the oil tank level has to report that it's okay. Or you could say the oil tank level is okay, or it's in a state of okay, or whatever. So we'll just say it reports that the level's okay. We'll click this green box here, and that now meets our requirement. So we want to operate the pump unit as long as the lubrication system says it should be enabled, and as long as the oil tank level reports okay. And that will meet our second condition. So that if that oil tank level falls below 20%, it won't be okay anymore, and then the pump would know it's not supposed to operate. And that's a good stopping point. We'll see you in the next video.